Hello, fellow scientists. It's Miss Landry, and we are about to embark on a really fun lab in which we are going to determine molarity of a mystery solution. So remember that molarity is basically how much stuff is dissolved into the water. So for a higher molarity of lemonade would be very strong lemonade. But in order to do that, we're going to use something called dialysis tubing. So I have some of it floating in this beaker along with some string. I don't know if you can see that clear stuff down here on the bottom. That's the dialysis tubing. And so this stuff acts very much like a cell membrane. And if you remember, we learned about how cell membranes are selectively permeable. So we are going to make a model of a cell using this dialysis tubing. Now the key to this lab working properly is that it needs to be tied correctly. So I'm going to show you how to tie it. So we're going to make a cell, we're going to make a baggie, and you're going to take one side and you're going to fold it a couple times and make the fold pretty big. So you can see I've got a pretty large fold on there. Do you see that? Because what you're going to do is you're going to tie this so that the tie is within that fold. Otherwise, what's going to happen is the bag is going to leak and then your data is not going to be accurate. So that's what you're going to do. Once that's tied, I'll go ahead and tie it so I can show you what it looks like. So I've tied the bag, and I don't know if you can see, but there is a little bit of the fold above the knot and a bunch of it below the knot. So you want to make sure that the fold is within the knot, or the knot is within the fold. If the bag leaks, we're going to have to redo it, and you don't want to have to do that. So once you have that bottom one closed up and done, you want to dip it back in the water, okay, because it's much easier to work with if you can get it a little bit moistened up. So if you've ever been to the grocery store and you're buying some vegetables or some fruit and you get those plastic bags, they can be hard to open. So it's very similar to this. You're going to take it and you're going to just rub it on the end to try and get it to separate the two sides. So you'll feel it start to separate, and you can see that I've got it starting to separate there. Once you get it starting to separate, you can take your pipette and put it in on one side and kind of slide it across, and that will make sure that it separates all the way down. Okay, so now I've got this bag separated. And what I'm going to do, let's say that I'm working with my first molarity solution, so my 0.2 glucose molarity. I'm going to take my pipette, make sure it's labeled for which solution you're using, because you don't want to get the wrong solution in the wrong one. I'm going to fill this up. And this is a great way to make sure that your tie actually worked, because if you start to see some drops on the bottom, then you know you're leaking, okay? So I'm going to add a little bit more. I'll probably add like 3 to 4 pipettefuls into each baggie, into each cell model. All right, so you can see I've got some solution in there. So far it's not leaking. I don't see any water dropping out of the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to fold the top just like I did the bottom, and I'm going to tie that one closed as well. So let me show you what that looks like once it's tied. All right, so I've got it tied on the other side now as well, and you can see I've still got my solution on the inside. It's not leaking on the bottom. If it's dripping, you want to make sure that it's not just coming from this string. The string is also quite wet, so you want to squeeze that moisture out and make sure. You can give it a little squeeze on the bag, and you can tell, let me move those out of the way, it's not leaking. I'll try the other side. You can see I tied it right within the fold, so there's a little bit of the fold above the tie and a little bit below. Give it a little squeeze. It's not leaking, so I'm good to go. Now, you're going to get your initial mass with this, but before you do, I would cut off the excess string. You don't need a ton of string, but you want to leave enough that the knot is not going to become untied. So I'll cut both sides before I go get my initial mass. I'm going to just mass this now, and that's my initial mass. Once you have your initial mass, you're going to make sure that you're putting it in the correct labeled beaker. So if this was 0.2 molar glucose solution, it will go in the 0.2 molar glucose solution beaker. In the beaker will be distilled water, but you still want to label it with what molarity of glucose solution you have. And that's how you set it up. I hope that made sense. I hope that helped, and I will see you guys in class. Thank you.